So now that we know that we can build an existing project, let's take a look at how to create our own. In this simple project, I will just be opening and closing Cube again and logging in. So we will not do any actual testing yet. So in the wizard you have 4 choices, desktop, web and mobile, or blank. We'll be using the blank option because we want to use our own templates later on. Okay, so first we have to give a solution name. I'll be creating a test for the element connections in this demo, so I'll call my solution element connections. And then we have the project name and the additional options. I'm going to call this one delete me because I will delete the standard project and add a new one using the templates in just a moment. Continue, and we have no other options to configure, so we can finish. Okay. And so here we have our standard project, and I'll immediately add another one using the templates, and then we'll compare them. So I'm going to use the Ranorex test suite QA that we've installed the template earlier on. And it's immediately choosing the correct location using the settings we've configured earlier, and I'll name this one also element connections. Okay, let's hit create button. And then we get a question whether we want to link the repository or to copy it. In this case, I want to link it. I want to link it to the shared repository that has been created by myself and other QA colleagues, which already has a lot of links to DataMiner Cube, which I'll explain in one of the next videos. Okay, so there we go. We have our second project called element connections. Okay, so at first sight, there's not too much difference. In the delete me project, you see there's a test case with a recording, and in the element connections test suite, you see there's already a setup and a teardown section. And then also a test case named test case and a recording called recording one, which is when we open it up by double clicking, you see it's completely blank, but it is linked to the DataMiner Cube library. If we open up the recording from the delete me test suite, you see it has its own repository, which is still completely empty. Okay, so next to the differences in the recordings, there's another one that is already pre-configured when using the template. So when you right-click on the test suite in the top level and go to global parameters, you'll see there's already a number of parameters that are pre-created. So one is database, so typically we can use DataMiner with either Cassandra or MySQL. There's an agent field which is defaults to localhost, but allows you to connect to any DataMiner by using the IP or the name. And then we have the username. Typically we use Ranorex as username for automation using Ranorex because that allows us to trace possible issues, so they're not so actions done by Ranorex don't register as done by a user or done by administrator. and you can also create several users, for example, Ranorex with security level 2, and then you give it a name like Ranorex level 2, and you can use that for a test with limited security. And then lastly, of course, the password. It's empty by default for security reasons, but you can fill it in, of course. Okay, and the handy thing about these global parameters is that you can pass them when starting from command line, which we will do later on when starting our test runs from Jenkins. So you can configure database agent to connect to user to connect with through command line when you have them set up as global parameters. Let's take a look in the delete me project at the global parameters. So here you can see they are empty. So it saves you some setup work to use the template. Okay, so now I'll close off everything from the delete me test suite, and we can actually delete it. Okay, so I'll remove it in Ranorex Studio. Save my element connections test suite, and then from the right-click menu, I'll go to Open Folder in Explorer, because removing the delete me project from the solution in Ranorex Studio does not physically delete it, so I'll also delete it here. And then we are ready to get started. The test case and recording I'll disable for now. So in the right-click menu, you can disable the recording, and now we want to be able to open Cube, log in, and log out. So first thing I'll do is we only have our recording one here, and I want to access the recordings that are in the DataMiner Cube library. So I'll add an existing project to my solution. And for this one, we go to the Ranorex folder we've retrieved from Git and into the shared solution, DataMiner Cube shared solution folder, DataMiner Cube library. And here we have the DataMiner Cube library project file. We'll open this one. Okay, and if we give it a moment, all of the recordings included in the library should also appear in the module browser. Okay, it's coming in slowly. Okay, we have the recording modules, and we have some code modules. For now, we'll just be using existing recording modules. So first thing I want to do is open Cube or launch Cube, because we'll be using the Cube launcher application. So I'm gonna do a search for launch, and we can use several options here. The one I'll be using is Open Launcher with arguments host. So that's quite a simple one, and it's using the command line arguments of the DataMiner application to immediately go to or connect to a DataMiner agent. Okay, so we see here unbound variable 1. So this recording is using a variable. To configure it, we right-click the recording and click data binding in the menu. Okay, and so then we come back to our global parameters, which I've shown you earlier. And what we want to use is we want to connect the agent to the host. So that's the DMA we will be connecting to. I don't have a local machine here, so I'll put up one of our server IPs. Okay, so that's it. I've added this to the setup section. So if you right click a test suite or a test case, you always have the add setup and add teardown sections available. The benefits, especially of the teardown, is that any recording you put in a teardown is always executed. Also, if you if some other parts of your test fails, so in C# coding you can compare it to a try catch and then finally, so the teardown section is comparable to your finally code block. It will always be executed, which is good to have to clean up failed tests. Okay, so we've added the open launcher, and I think we can already take a first run to see if this will in fact open up DataMiner Cube. Oh, and it failed. Okay, so after a test fails, you get a report with some nice screenshots in it. Let's take a look. Failed to run application DataMiner Cube. Yes, of course. I'm working on a blank Windows here and I haven't installed DataMiner Cube yet. So let's do that first. I'll navigate to our machine. Okay, and then here from the user menu, I can go to the tools page and I can install DataMiner Cube desktop application using the desktop installer. Yes, let's install Cube. Okay, there it goes, and it's immediately connecting to our DMA. Okay, and DataMiner is connected. We can see all of the details on our DMA. Okay, let's close it off and let's see if we can do the same thing from Ranorex automation. Okay, so Cube is opened. Let's close it off again and stop our test run. Okay, after we've opened up Cube, we of course want to log in. In this case, I was logged in automatically because I'm also logged in on this machine in the domain. But basically, we want to log in our user in Cube with the credentials from our tests. So I drag the login user in Cube recording onto my setup. And we see there's two unbound variables, so we go into data binding again. we want to use the username as username and the password, and I'll just fill in the passwords. Don't look. Okay. And then in our teardown, we also want to close off nicely. So first thing we'll do is close cube. Let's search for that one. Okay. Close cube window from the user menu. That one looks good. Okay, and what we also want to do in our teardown is close any of our opened cards. It's good practice to always close them. So close all open cards. Let's search. Okay, close all open cards. This one is actually a code module, but we can use it in the same way as a recording module. So this is coded to iterate over any open cards, but you can just drag it onto your test suite in the same way as a recording. Okay, let's try it. Okay, so I've added an additional user for this test in my DataMiner system, and we're going to change this in the element connections global parameters. Okay, let's save this and run. Okay, so Cube is open, and now Ranorex should try to log in. Normally the login routine is equipped to detect login with another user and should log out and log in again. So it's now, you can see this in the bottom of my screen. Let's just make a quick change on the video so you can see the actual, so the running screen here from Ranorex, and you can read what it's trying to do. So now it's closing again. I think something failed. Yes, indeed. So it could not find certain buttons. Okay. Now let's take a look at the reports. User menu button is no button. Okay. There's something really important I forgot to tell you, because Ranorex has support for many different tools, so you can also automate websites and so on and so on. And there's a bit of configuration we still need to do. So here on top you have the two lines next to the link to Ranorex Spy, which are the settings. Let's open this one up. And we want to configure several settings. But first and most important one is we go to the plugins. And then if we scroll down here, we will come across all the technologies supported by Ranorex, and the last two ones are WPF and WPF Core. I'll change these two settings here, realize items in virtualizing containers and show all elements. We found out by trial and error that these work better for DataMiner Cube. Okay. Okay, I hope those are saved. And in fact, let's take a further look at the settings. There's also, under the advanced, you can also go to edit attribute weights, and we have quite a few settings there already enabled by default, and we'll add some more. I've already prepared a set, so I'll import these. Okay. And those are also stored in the Git. So if you go to the Ranorex folder, you can find a templates folder. And in those templates, you will find an Rx settings file. We open this one up. Okay. So if we check on the plugins again, you'll see both of these are still true. That's also part of the settings file. And then in advanced and attribute weights, we've added a couple specifically for WPF. So we hide some stuff by automation ID, by captions, by name. So these are specific to DataMiner Cube. And then also the type, we will give a higher weight. So the height ones will set the weight to 0. The type ones will set it to 100, because the type is often linked to the model or the view model in DataMiner Cube. So that's a good reference to use later on. Okay, so these settings are no black magic, just what we found over the years to be working better. Not sure why it's throwing all of these pop-ups. Okay, so let's save the settings and run again. So starting up DataMiner, and I hope this time it can log out and log in again. Okay, so it's clicking the user menu, logging out. Okay, there we go. Our Ranorex 1 user is logged in. There's a few basic checks that are also done by the login script. And then after that, it's trying to close any opened cards and closing off DataMiner Cube. And when fully finished, we should again get a nice report. Okay, so here we can see a report. We see our setups all green, our teardowns all green, and our test case is grayed out because there's no actual content in it yet. In the next session, we'll take a look at how to create our own recordings and how to identify items in DataMiner Cube so we can use them in Ranorex. In the next recording, we'll take a look at how we can create our own recordings and how we can add items from DataMiner Cube into the Ranorex repository so we can use them in several recordings. Thank you for watching. See you next time.